Yesterday came the news that Donovan Mitchell joined teammate Rudy Gobert testing positive for coronavirus. On Monday during media availability, before he knew he was infected, Gobert touched every microphone on the stage to jokingly show everyone he wasn't afraid of the virus. Well, yesterday, Gobert issued this apology by way of Instagram, which read in part, "I want to thank everybody for the outpouring of concern and support over the last 24 hours. The first and most important thing is I would like to publicly apologize to the people that I may have endangered. At this time, I had no idea I was even infected. I was careless and make no excuse. I hope my story serves as a warning and causes everyone to take this seriously. I encourage everyone to take all of the steps to stay safe and healthy." Now, also last night, Charles Barkley announced in a phone interview on TNT's Inside the NBA that he is under self-quarantine and awaiting the results of those tests of the coronavirus after recently not feeling well. So, Stephen A. Smith, I want to circle back to Gobert. What's your thoughts on his apology?
Well, first of all, we're a forgiven nation, and the reality of the situation is that he showed the appropriate level of contrition. I certainly don't believe that he intended any harm to anybody. He was playing around, being affable and what have you. He didn't have any malice intent.
Of course.
So let's get that out the way. But there's no escaping his immaturity, the insensitivity that he displayed, and it was inexcusable. And the reason why it's inexcusable when you're playing around, and you're not doing harm to anybody else, okay, that's fine. But there were people, even though he didn't take it seriously, there were people inside that locker room who were taking it seriously. So we see cameras showing him touch people's microphones, tape recorders, stuff like that. What we don't see is what Woj reported yesterday, Max, that he then went into his own locker room and started touching other people's stuff and playing around with them because his belief was it's nothing serious. And the belief was that other people on the Utah Jazz were overreacting. So Donovan Mitchell ends up contracting it. And if you read his statement, he was talking about elevating our level of awareness and responsibility. And even though he didn't call out his teammate, you could tell that he was alluding to his teammate. There are other members of the Utah Jazz that obviously have gotten tested and what have you. And we don't know the results of that yet. So his insensitivity and his immaturity may have really caused harm to others, and that's the unfortunate part of all of this.
There's 2 points I'd like to make about this. The first is I'm glad he posted what he posted.
So am I.
It's not enough, and I don't think it's from he's not being malicious, as you say, but he's not being careful enough in his thinking here. He said he's sorry about his carelessness. That was not carelessness. Carelessness would be if he sneezed into the air and he didn't cover up, something like that. He didn't wash his hands before he took. What he did was intentionally done. Not that he's looking to spread disease, we understand that, but it indicated that he didn't take it seriously, okay? So I would like to see Gobert post another message saying, hey, everybody, the mistake I made was that I didn't take this seriously. This is very serious, is what we should do. Now, the question is, why didn't he? And why didn't enough people? Because people got reports that they heard it was a hoax, so they were shaking hands intentionally to show it was just a political hoax, right? Is it a state of emergency or is it a hoax? You can't have both, right? The reason for that is, for a lot of people, is it's easier to not take it seriously because the cost to the individual is high. The benefit is low. The benefit is not about not contracting the disease. It's about not spreading it to others because we want to slow the rate of the spread. Millions and millions of people are likely to get it. You don't want them to get it all at the same time. That's when you get bad outcomes. You want to slow the rate of the spread. So it's a societal benefit. When you're asked to take precautions and go out of your way at personal cost for societal benefit, there's not a powerful incentive. No. So we need role models like Gobert now to come out and say, hey, I didn't take this seriously, and that was the problem.
I can appreciate your point of view. I will tell you that I got that from what he was saying, but I can understand how you want him to illuminate that a bit more. I get where you're coming from with that. I got his.
I just didn't like the use of the word careless.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Careless suggests I didn't take precautions. No, you intentionally made light of it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Well, we do have a little bit more breaking news coming down the pipeline. A statement from NASCAR. All races and events this weekend at Atlanta and next weekend at Homestead, Florida have been postponed.
Well, I will tell you this. That's a sport that doesn't necessarily need the crowd at all. I mean, you can sit up there and you could be on a racetrack inside a car, Max, and going around the track.
But you know what
you ain't hearing the crowd. I wouldn't say that.
What we're finding, even without ticket revenue, fans are more essential to sports than we thought.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree. I'm just saying that's the one sport that can get away with doing what they do.
First take coming back at 4 o'clock.
As you by now well know, there will be no March Madness this year, nor May Madness. Thursday afternoon, the NCAA officially canceling all remaining winter and spring championships, including both the men's and women's NCAA basketball tournaments due to the coronavirus outbreak. And that is just a tiny part of the way this has impacted sports. We've talked a great deal about it already this morning. We have just a moment with Stephen A. and Max before they head over to First Take. Steve, as you sort of sit back and look at what the impact of having essentially no sports in America for some period of time may be, what thoughts go through your mind?
Well, I got to tell you something on a personal level. I'm kind of depressed because I've never, ever in my lifetime experienced having a day where there wasn't one single sporting event to watch. It's never happened. But this is America, man. And, you know, we've faced trials and tribulations throughout society for a very, very long time. And that we've got the intestinal fortitude to overcome it. And I'm going to have a positive attitude and think that we'll find a way to work through this crisis and we'll move forward.
FDR implored baseball to keep going through the Second World War. And sports has always been distraction in national crises moments, right? War, tragedy, disease, whatever it is, not disease. This is the first time we're experiencing a national emergency, a national crisis where we don't have sports to distract us. It's the first time, although Dana White announced today that the UFC is going on. And if tests become more available, sports like boxing, for example, where you don't need to test so many people, could, theoretically be held.
Without audiences in place, as they will do for the UFC. Again, I have to let you guys go. I'm sorry it was so quick, but we went a little long there with Jay Monahan. You guys are live in 2.5 minutes. I will meet you over there, and we'll talk about it there. And I brought this up as we bring Dan and Mike back in.
To the NBA, Greeny, on Thursday, All-Star Donovan Mitchell became the second Utah Jazz player to test positive for the coronavirus, joining teammate Rudy Gobert. While Gobert was not at the arena in Oklahoma City on Wednesday, Mitchell was in uniform and would have played if the game had not been postponed due to Gobert's diagnosis. So here's what Gobert said on Instagram in a statement yesterday. I want to thank everyone for the outpouring of concern and support over the last 24 hours. I've gone through so many emotions since learning of my diagnosis, mostly fear, anxiety, and embarrassment. The first thing and most important thing is I would like to publicly apologize to the people that I may have endangered. At that time, I had no idea I was even infected. I was careless and make no excuse. I hope my story serves as a warning and causes everyone to take this seriously. I will do whatever I can to support using my experience as a way to educate others and prevent the spread of this virus. I'm under great care and will fully recover. Thank you again for all your support. I encourage everyone to take all the steps to stay safe and healthy. Love. That's from Rudy Gobert. Meanwhile, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver joined Inside the NBA on TNT last night to further explain the NBA's plans going forward.
This hiatus will be most likely at least 30 days. I mean, and we don't know enough, as you've all said, to be more specific than that. But we wanted to give direction to our players and teams and to our fans that this is going to be roughly at least a month. This literally changes hour by hour in terms of what we know. So it was really a moment for us to step back, take a breath, ensure that everyone in the NBA community was safe and healthy and doing everything they needed to do to care for their families, and then give us some time to deliberate and figure out if there's a way that we can resume playing at some point. Even if we're out for a month, even if we're out for 6 weeks, we could still restart the season. It might mean that then the finals take place in July, late July. Just my feeling was it was way premature to suggest that we had lost the season.
NBA insider Brian Windhorst joins us now. Wendy, you've been ahead of this thing, telling us even a couple of days ago before other people were what might happen here. But what are you hearing about how the 30-day hiatus is being handled in the league office?
Well, 30 days is just something that they said, Laura. They don't really know. And in all likelihood, it's going to be significantly longer than that. But the challenge that they have is they want to keep their players in touch with their teams. One of the things that I think we've seen in looking in China, and I can't emphasize enough how important it is to look at China to educate us. In China, there have been many big cities, including Beijing, where life has gone on generally okay, but to prevent the spread of the virus, they're having no large gatherings. So the last thing the NBA wants to do if they want to resume their season is send their players out into the world. They want to keep them close and keep them healthy. And that enables the possibility of bringing them back together relatively quickly and relatively healthily so that they could restart, even if it is down the line without fans. And that's the challenge here. When an NBA player, many of whom have families and homes elsewhere where they play, plus access to private jet travel, their instinct is to say, let me get home, let me get out of here. And that's the challenge right now. The second thing that the NBA and the Players Union are working on is privacy when it comes to health. They don't necessarily like the fact that we're broadcasting which players have tested positive. There's almost certainly going to be more that end up with the situation, and that's another thing that they're working together amongst many issues right now.